Hi, my name is Rochelle, and you're watching or listening to BoxBox F1 Pod. Welcome to the Canadian Grand Prix episode. It's been a couple of weeks, although it was kind of a boring race. We did have a few quite exciting moments, particularly in the last 3 laps. This seems to be a trend recently. Last 3 laps drama, and in fact, last race's last 3 lap race drama has carried over. We're still chatting about it. It was a hot topic this weekend, much to Max's dismay. But we still got some exclusive drama happening on their track as well, including RIP One Dead Groundhog. And Kimi became the third youngest driver to be on the podium, only outbeaten by Max and Lance. Always a hilarious stat to hear with Lance's other stats. This is not a Lance hate account, just so everyone knows. I love Lance, truly. But, his stats tend to be a bit more subdued. But anyway, so all in all, we had some pretty great... They were far and few in between, but the highlights we got from the Canadian Grand Prix are amazing. So we'll be chatting about that. As you can see, I did not cook this week. I struggled to come up with anything Canadian. Didn't want to make a dessert, didn't want to make poutine, and also I had a hip procedure and I didn't want to stand. So here we are. I am drinking an Aperol Spritz, and I chose this drink because it symbolizes the Spritz Aperol Spritz is Italian, and I wanted to celebrate the speed of my favorite little Italian, Kimi Antonelli. And it's orange. There are many spritzes I could have chosen, but it is orange because of the McLaren fiasco that happened on track. And I'm very excited to talk about all of it. So without further ado, let's kick things off with the digital warm-up. Lap 1. So Carlos Sainz, I'm very excited to report, is in his lifestyle influencer era. I don't know why his post-Ferrari career has taken such a turn, but he is now doing purely skincare and fashion ads, and I love it. For L'Oreal, one of his ads he did for them, first of all, he's in ads with Eva Longoria. There was this really funny ad where she's calling everyone to come out, and she calls all these girls. I can't remember all this. It was a bunch of celebrities. She's like, yoo-hoo, blah, blah, blah. And she's and they're all coming. They're all in their hotel rooms. She's walking down the hall shouting for everyone. And she's Carlos. And he was coming. I think she said, Carlos, vamos. And he was oh, coming. And it was really funny. Love this for him. Love this for L'Oreal. I honestly think this will revolutionize their men's care. Honestly, it's making me want to use L'Oreal, even though he's not marketing for women at all. Also, part of his Hackett London, which is a men's tailor brand company, whatever, he posted a series of outfits, and he captioned it "Favorite May Fits," which is so funny to me. And if Hackett didn't give him that caption, probably came from Rebecca. I don't know. It made me laugh. It's so good for him. It's so good for every brand that he works with because he's killing it. And I just find it hilarious that this is where his off-track income has turned, but I'm here for it. Max is marketing Heineken Zero, and Carlos is here's my skincare routine. In other news, George Russell attended, speaking of Rebecca and fashion, both Rebecca and Carmen, George's girlfriend, attended a Manolos event. For those of you who don't know what Manolos are or never watched Sex and the City, it's a shoe. But Manolos are pretty iconic. And they were both at this event. It was a big day. It was a big week for Rebecca and other wags. So she saw Carmen at this Manolos event. I'll get into her other extracurricular activities in a second. But quickly on Carmen, she and George Russell attended the men's final for the French Open, which was 5.5 hours long, between Carlos Alcaraz and Yannick Sinner. from what I understand, so total random side note, but Yannick Sinner does not look what I imagine an Italian to look like, but he is very much Italian. He is tall, pasty, and ginger. And I believe that might be because he is from the same, I'm pretty sure, because he's really good at skiing. I should probably Google this. I'm just like hypothesizing on where he's from when I could have just Googled it. Well, you know what? I'm going to Google it. I was right. All right. What I was saying was I had a feeling because he doesn't look that Italian. And I was like, what other Italians do I know that don't look that Italian? And I was like, aha, Gunther Steiner. Yannick Sinner, Gunther Steiner are from the same place in Italy called South Tyrol. That was butchered egregiously. But it is the area of Italy that borders Germany, which is why Gunther Steiner has German energy. Well, he doesn't have German energy. Yeah. Anyway, they're from the same place. But Yannick and Carlos Alcaraz played against each other. Carlos won. By the way, totally was expecting Carlos Sainz to post about it, congratulating Carlos Alcaraz. And I was not disappointed. He did, in fact, congratulate little Carlitos. I just love, like, athletic Carloses supporting each other, especially because Carlos Sainz is not just a Formula One driver. Carlos Sainz can do every sport. Self-proclaimed and proclaimed by others. He was walking around Montreal in a cycling suit. He has been proclaimed as one of the best paddle drivers on the paddock, on the grid by himself. The thing is, like, he backs himself for everything, but everyone else also backs him. So it's not like he's just saying, like, I'm the best, and everyone's like, cool your horses. No, I think he's actually the best all-round athlete on the grid and who actually cares, which I love for him. But anyway, that was a huge huge tangent from the fact that George Russell and Carmen attended the men's French Open finals. And they were shown on TV. Carmen was shown eating. I think someone screenshotted she's now George's background of her, like, mid-bite as they showed her on international television. Moving on, Charles Leclerc had a very, very busy couple of weeks. His brother Lorenzo got married to his longtime girlfriend, fiance, Dr. Charlotte. She's a doctor. And what was really funny is, like, she had a stunning dress. All the girls looked beautiful. I think Alex was in the bridal party. It was very wholesome. But I kept thinking to myself, like, her dress is stunning, but everyone was kind of casual. Like, I was sort of expecting the men to be black tie, and they were just wearing regular suits, and it was, like, outside. I'm like, this is, like, kind of cute that it's so casual. And then she commented on a post saying this was just her civil ceremony, and the proper wedding with the church and everything is going to be in a few weeks. A few months, I can't remember, later. Which I found hilarious because it wasn't that casual. Like, yeah, the men weren't wearing tuxes, but, like, it wasn't a casual wedding. It looked like a full-on wedding. But nope, that's just part one. Part two coming soon to a Monegasque church near you. I'm assuming it's in Monaco. I don't know if it is. But there was a hilarious, so I guess there was multiple wedding events, but from the dinner or the lunch, it's probably lunch because it was light outside, there was paparazzi footage or fan footage of Charles and Alex leaving the event, getting into his Ferrari and driving off. A few minutes later, you see Arthur come out of the same place, look around for his ride, get on the phone. And a few minutes later, you see Charles's car pulling back in and circling around to pick Arthur up. And for some reason, that's so funny to me that they just forgot Arthur at this party. And I think Arthur referenced it in some Instagram comment about being left behind. But it was so funny that it was all caught on camera. And it's so Charles to forget Arthur. I don't know how Alex forgot. I guess Alex was not paying attention, but Alex, Charles' girlfriend, turned 24, and she had a very, very spring-forward party. Everyone was wearing oranges and yellows, and she looked stunning. There was another video of Arthur holding, like, all the presents she got. There was, like, 12 bags in his hands. which made me laugh because, like, how has he gotten to the position of being stranded at parties and being the pack mule and like all of that stuff? But it's really cute. Their friendship seems really wholesome. And Rebecca was there as well. Rebecca came to Alex's 24th birthday party, which I loved. It just looked like a really nice event, and it was stunning. The florals were stunning. Anyway, being in Monaco sounds nice. And happy birthday, Alex. All right. In other news, Lance is back on track. He, in case you forgot, missed the Spanish Grand Prix because he was getting a procedure on his wrist, which I believe was follow-up from poor healing after his injury in 2023 when he fell off a bike cycling in Spain. Had to get emergency surgery on his wrist, had a broken toe, broke his wrist in multiple places, and then was racing again in 2 weeks' time, which I thought was baffling at the time. I thought it was absolute insanity that any doctor cleared him to race. And guess what? I was right. Because what did he need 2 years later but a follow-up procedure because something was wonky. So I feel vindicated. Not that I wanted to be vindicated. I don't wish extra surgery on anyone, but like I thought it was insane that he was allowed to race without rehabbing properly. Since he's been back, he's been giving a lot of one-word answers. While they were speculating about what will happen if he doesn't come back, they're like, well, if Valtteri replaces Lance, I don't know why it would be Valtteri, but if Valtteri subs for Lance in Canada, he would have to serve, I think, it's a three-grid penalty drop or something that's carried over from last year, but since he's not driving this year, so whenever he ends up back in the Formula One car, his last penalty that he hasn't served yet will be he'll be forced to follow through. So I thought that was kind of funny. But he's been giving a lot of one-word answers in the media, like, oh, I'm excited, oh, great. They're like, how are you feeling about being back? He's like, great. Like, how do you think this weekend's how do you feel about this weekend? Excited, blah, 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 blah. Like, I don't blame him. Him and Max sort of give similar energy in press conferences, except for the fact that when Max gives one-word answers, it's because he thinks the media is stupid, which Lance does too. But Max has so much to say. You can see Max wants to talk so much. And Lance is just a calm, unbothered king. Again, this is not a Lance hate account, so if that's what you're expecting, leave. But I do love the Stroll family. I love Chloe Stroll. I think Lawrence is deeply misrepresented, and I think Lance is a wholesome man. And to back me up is who I find the most reliable human on the grid. Not really. Esteban Ocon defended Lance. He said, I know Lance doesn't talk much, but that's because he opens up more with the people he trusts. In reality, he's a really lovely person, and so is his dad. People don't understand how passionate Lance is. There's probably no one who has more passion than him in the racing world. Everything else interests him less because the thing he loves to do most is drive the car. In F1, just for the money? No, because he also won international trophies in the karting days when there were also people like me, like Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc on the track. We were all fighting against each other, and in the group, there was also Lance Stroll. It's not true that money brought him right here. Not entirely. Of course, there are easier ways to get to F1, but in the end, the money is not with you when you are in the car, which I do think there's something suspicious about Esteban Ocon in general because so many people seem to dislike him, but he is good friends with Lance, and I do think this means a lot coming from him, especially as someone who does not come from money on the grid. He's one of the few people who doesn't. I think it's like him and Lewis. And there's like different levels of not coming from money, but I truly think they did not come from money like at all. His father's like a mechanic. Like it was rough to get him here. And so for him to be defending Lance's position in the Formula One world and to say it's not because of money, I think means a lot coming from him. So it was really nice that he did this and said this. But yeah, anyway, Lance is back. There has also been lots of conversations about shakeups among teams. First of all, there's been a lot of rumors that Fred Vasseur might get fired. I think that's insane that they're going to fire Fred Vasseur. Fred Vasseur is not the problem. Fred Vasseur brought to the team, I think, a lot of what Mattia Binotto lacked. I think there could be a little more energy in terms of communication, but he's definitely made things better since Mattia's time. However, what Mattia brought to the team that Fred probably cannot is a well-engineered car, and the car is struggling. But I don't see why firing Fred would help, but I'm not in charge of a Formula One team, so what do I know? There's just like this like mid-year turnover doesn't make sense to me. I just don't think it's good for the team, good for morale, and it's going to fix anything, particularly at this stage. Like, I don't think Fred is the issue. All right, moving on. Oh, not moving on. The second rumors that have been swirling is that Isaac Hadjar should be called up to Red Bull, the second seat, to replace Yuki. And it's so funny because everyone is like everyone in the F1 world is basically like, don't you dare go to that seat, Isaac. Stay far away from that seat, because he has been not objectively, I think him and Kimi probably are fighting for it, but considering that his car is so mid, Isaac has had one of the most successful rookie performances this year, and I think people are quick to jump on like, we'll put him in the Red Bull seat. But Isaac said it himself when he was asked about it. He's like, Yuki and Liam and Checo, I think he mentioned Checo. He mentioned at least 2 drivers, are not bad drivers, and they are struggling in that car. I'm still learning F1. I just got here, and I really like how my time at Racing Bulls is going. So I don't think I'm ready yet, which is if he was trained for that, well done to the PR team. If he said that himself, well done him. But no, that was like the best answer he could have given to like, no. But he said, I'm waiting for the call. But like, I don't think he should go there. Go far, far away. Far away. Poor Yuki is now going to suffer for this. Like, we saw his performances at Racing Bulls. We're seeing his performances here. Max alluded to it. Everyone but Red Bull seems to want to accept the fact that the problem is the car. So I don't know. Isaac, stay away. Lap 2, Max and George. So in case you forgot, a couple weeks ago when we were in Spain, there was an incident with George and Max in the last few laps of the race where Max ended up doing a very questionable move on George that ended up costing him a 10-second penalty and a podium position. Why and how we ended up in that place is up for debate. You could say, no, well, I'm definitely saying his team put him on the wrong tire, which upset him. And then George did a move on him that was not penalized. And when he was told to give the spot back to George for doing a similar move, he's like, boo, and then tried to just scare him. I don't think he was actually trying to crash into him, but because he was on the wrong tire, he didn't have full control of his car and it messed up. Anyway, so I don't think it was fully Max's fault. What I do think is Max's fault is his control over his emotions, and he shouldn't have done that move to begin with. And he should be angry on the inside, and not necessarily yelling and shouting and screaming at everyone. But there was like a lot of things that happened in a row that were just working against him. So I totally understand his frustration, but like, maybe let's express it more effectively and less dangerously. Anyway, after the race, every time he was asked about it, he was like, I don't know what we're talking about. This is stupid, which is a dumb thing to say because we all know why we're talking about it. It was a huge thing. Got a 10-second penalty, and now he's 2 penalty points away from a race ban. He did eventually post on Instagram that it was a move that he should not have done. Not a full-on apology, but that's an apology from Max. And George has been like yammering on about this since he went on and on about the poor children that were watching that were getting such a bad example. And he kept getting asked about if they talked, if they didn't talk. He did mention that the only time he saw Max was at the airport with his baby, and he completely forgot they crashed in Spain because he was so annoyed that Max was taking too long to pack the stroller to go through security, which made me laugh. But anyway, so fast forward to Canada, and the media is like, this is the only thing we're going to talk about. I'm sure Max will love this, so we're just going to go ahead and run with it. And as you can expect, Max loved it. He fucking hated it. It's understandable that the media would have questions, but like, how many times can you ask the same question? Like, how many times can you say, hey, Max, so like, you're 2 penalties points away from like a race ban. Thoughts? So like, you were side by side with George and then like you crash into him. Thoughts? Like, Max was getting more and more pissed throughout the weekend. On Thursday, Ted was interviewing Max. So Ted Kravitz said, so just a question about going forward, the negotiation with the stewards or race director on whether places should be given back or what. Since Jonathan Wheatley went, obviously you have Stephen Knowles who was doing it. I assume it was him who told GP to tell you to give the place back to George, which wasn't the right call. The stewards later confirmed that. How are you working that out with him? Obviously, he's not been in the job that too long since Jonathan's gone to Sauber. How are you working that out? That same situation doesn't happen again. And Max responded, I think it's not really nice to try and single out a person, to be honest, because that's never the case. I think we just took it as a team. What we always can do better. And that's also how we look at it in Barcelona. But it's not fair to now single out one single person. And Ted goes, I don't think I'm singling him out. I just named him. And Max goes, yeah, you named him. And Ted goes, I just named who he was. Jonathan Wheatley is obviously a well-known guy. I wasn't saying it was Stephen Knowles is his fault. And Max goes, well, you mentioned him. And Kravitz goes, but Jonathan Wheatley was a well-known guy. He was your rules guy. Now Knowles, is the new guy. Max goes, so we're talking about him. You're singling him out. And Ted goes, okay, but he's on the pit wall. He's a fairly... And Max interrupts him and goes, I don't need to discuss this here anyway. If we ever look at things that we can do better, we do that like every other team. But I'm not going to stand here in front of the camera and say who was at fault exactly. Ted goes, but I wasn't asking, and Max cuts him off again. We all live and learn. And Ted goes, I wasn't asking you to do that, just to be clear. I was asking how you live and learn. But thank you. I think you answered it. Super testy, and as we all know, Ted hates Max. He will deny it. He, of course, pretends that he's so unbiased. Like, Ted Kravitz is so painfully biased against Max. And also this entire, Max rightfully called him out. Ted was like, so it's this guy's fault. And Max was like, I don't want to single out a single person. We took it as a team. And Ted goes, I'm not singling out one person. I just named the person. And Max was like, yeah, that's singling out a person. And then Ted made it seem like Max was like, I don't know. It doesn't matter. But my point is that the British media, Max is not wrong to be hesitant about them. Ted and Brundle specific. Crofty is a little more neutral, not by much, but he is more neutral. Brundle's son is very much more pro Max than his father. But Brundle and Ted, not big fans of Max. There was a whole segment before the race today that I watched that Brundle was leading about whether aggression is okay on the track. And he compared Max to Schumacher and to Senna. And he was like, so is it ever okay to be aggressive? And but then he's like, so but it was a little different. Schumacher was always aggressive, and then Senna was just really emotional and brought that passion to track. But Max gets angry if something doesn't go his way on track, but they respond with angry aggressive moves. And then he's like, but that's nothing compared to Hamilton and Prost, who in my mind are very calm racers and very clean, and they earn their championships on merit. And then he goes, but also if I had to think about it, he's aggressive and he's great, but Senna's my favorite driver. So it's he was forced to compare Max to Senna, but then in the end was well, Senna's aggressive for different reasons, so it's fine. And then after the thing, there was I forgot what his name is, but this guy was talking to both him and Nico Rosberg, and he was like, Nico, just wondering your opinions on this. And Nico Rosberg immediately went, Max is not an angry, dangerous driver on track. He's a gladiator, and he capitalizes and maximizes the gray area in the rules and uses it to his advantage. He's not a dirty driver. And then he also said, and also you painted a bit of an angelic image of Lewis Hamilton, which is just not true, because he was also a gladiator on track. And that wasn't him critiquing Lewis and saying he's a dirty driver. He was just being Lewis is not that much chiller than Max, on track. They all flirt with the gray area, I think was his point. And Brundle was just sitting there okay, but Brindle just hates him. I don't know. It's so stupid to me. Like how much they hate him and can't hide it. But after qualifying in the post-quality press conference, Max was asked again. He's like, "So you were side by side with George, and penalty points?" And he's like, "We like need to stop this. Like, I don't want to answer this. This is stupid, like, and childish, and like, I'm getting really tired of it and annoyed." And it shows George and Oscar laughing. I think George and Oscar are laughing for different reasons, because I think Oscar is laughing because he thinks it's funny the way Max is responding and like kind of agreeing. Like this is totally me assuming. But George is, I don't think he's laughing for the same thing as reason as George, because to me, George is laughing like, get a load of this guy. He's so dramatic. Like he seems like he's been like egging Max on to like attack him. Like, and that's just like not gonna work. Max does not care about penalty points. Max does not care about any of it. George is not going to bait Max into attacking him on track. In a post-race press conference, in the media pen on Thursday, George was asked about it again, and George is very excited to talk about all of this. It's not like Max. He's like, yeah, let's talk about this. And he said, "I don't think he tried to hit me. He was just trying to get his elbows out and show who's boss. But he got it wrong. Yas is the boss." Okay. Like it rhymes, it's funny, but what? And in the post-quali interview in Park Firm, he made a joke. He was asked, like, what do you think will go down? Because him and Max were on the starting grid in the first row. And he's like, well, I've got a few more points on my license to play with, and like giggled. And it's like, he's trying to bait Max. He's trying to come off as like the more reasonable, rational one. And he's like, look at me. But like it's funny, but like not really. Like George needs to like stop talking about it. All right, moving on. Lap 3, trackside in Montreal. Danica Patrick, who is still part of the Sky commentary team, was saying quite often that the track was easy and not a difficult track. She said it once, and Brundle was there, and he like sort of like bulged his eyes out, but didn't say anything because he's, British and proper. And then she said the same thing in front of Nico Rosberg, and Nico goes, "No, I'm going to have to disagree with you just a little bit there, Danica. I actually think this is one of the hardest tracks on the entire calendar." And then like went on to explain why. And Danica's like, oh, "Okay, that's fine. You can disagree with me." But like, he didn't just like sort of disagree. He's like, I'm going to disagree with you just a little bit there. And then full on disagree. Just said the exact opposite of what she said. And of course, who am I going to believe? Danica Patrick or the world champion who rivaled Lewis Hamilton and who could have had many more great years but retired at the height of his game? I'm going to believe Nico Rosberg. Speaking of Nico Rosberg, so I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but there is a theory that Nico Rosberg curses people. So via selfies. He curses people via selfies. So anytime he takes a selfie outside of someone's garage, that person's race is fucked. Today, he took a selfie on track near the start. And do you know where Lando and Oscar crashed into each other? That exact spot. Like, I'm not saying curses are real, but that seems like a fucking curse, man. Like, I don't know, like that's suspicious. It's suspicious. I don't know if he's ever commented on this accusation that he curses people, but there was a Williams that does a lot of great social media moments. Well, actually, okay. If we're going to be competing on social media moments, Racing Bulls is 10 out of 10 on voiceovers and audios, and Isaac is like, they're blessed with Isaac, honestly. Red Bull does a great job on maximizing on Yuki's personality, which is really what's driving, but they know how to bring it out in the videos they post, which is 10 out of 10. Williams is great at maximizing the relationship between Alex and Carlos. Today, they did not today, I think it was Saturday, they did like a cooking thing where they made pancakes. which was great content. There was a clip of Carlos putting whipped cream in his mouth that has now entered every single F1 edit I've seen in the last 4 days. Like, if I see another close-up slow-mo set to like sensual music of Carlos filling his mouth with whipped cream, I cannot handle it. It's like, we're doing too much, guys. Let's chill out on the zoom in on the whipped cream and Carlos's mouth. But I love the cooking video. It was really fun, and you can see them interacting with other drivers as they walk by. It's cute. Nicole Piastri tweeted a good luck to all the local groundhogs, and I was like, also the drivers. And you know what? She was right to wish the luck to the groundhogs, because Lewis Hamilton murdered one with his car. And that was sad. And Lewis was sad. Of all the people, the number one vegan animal lover driver on the grid had to be the one to murder the groundhog. That's going to haunt him. It will truly haunt him. It haunts me a little bit. Ben Stiller was there. He's the only major celebrity I saw, but yeah, Ben Stiller was in the Ferrari garage. Valtteri Bottas posted a really funny video saying, like, you guys think I don't do anything as a third driver? Actually, I'm like super busy. And then it was like 800 shots of him just sipping espresso in random places. It was great. 10 out of 10 content. Also, back to the food theme, Isaac was posted trying a bunch of Canadian delicacies, including poutine, and either they got him cold poutine or shit poutine, but like whatever poutine he tried, he did not like. Maybe it was the French snobbery coming out, because I don't see why you wouldn't like poutine unless you got shit poutine. Because like, what can you hate about cheese and potatoes and gravy? Umami, like, it sounds fabulous. And he like made a face, and he's like, oh, this is fine. And you can like tell PR sort of intervene, and he was like, yeah, this is fine. And his reaction was very much giving the same energy as the driver saying they love the F1 movie. Isaac didn't like poutine, and the drivers didn't like the movie. All right, well, that concludes the digital warm-up. On to analysis. So Charles crashed in free practice, and F1 made the most dramatic edit of him walking from his car back to the paddock. It was set to like really somber music, and it was just like the longest walk ever. It was quite funny. There was another clip of Oscar and Max debriefing after quali. Then Mercedes posted a picture of Oscar and George talking, and it was a video actually, and you could hear what they were saying. And Oscar was like, great, now I have to watch out for Netflix mics and George's mics. Made me laugh. There was a groundhog on track, which it turns out was just foreshadowing for the Groundhog Murder that was coming via Lewis. Poor Lewis. Truly would not wish that upon him. On anyone, but particularly Lewis, who really, truly loves animals. All right, the starting grid is as follows. George Russell, Max Verstappen, Oscar Piastri, Kimi Antonelli, Lewis Hamilton, Fernando Alonso, Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc, Alex Albon, Frank Colapinto, Nico Hülkenberg, Isaac Hadjar, Ollie Bierman, Esteban Ocon, Gabriel Bortoleto, Carlos Sainz, Lance Stroll, Liam Lawson, Pierre Gasly, and Yuki Tsunoda. Yuki was penalized 10 positions for overtaking during red flags in practice. Hadjar was penalized 3 spots for impeding during qualifying. And Liam and Pierre will both start from the pit lane because they took engine changes. Okay, so as we talk about the Canadian Grand Prix today, we'll be doing it more through some of the major moments / performances, obviously including the McLaren moment at the end, but like the in-betweens were not great. I'm really hoping the next gen of these cars, so like starting next year, we'll be seeing a bit more racy racing, because a lot of these races this year could have been better. We've had some great moments, but like, these cars are huge, it's hard to overtake, and they're all so close to each other. Like, the margin is not huge. So it could be better, is all I'm saying. And I'm hoping next year the new regulations will give us some more entertainment. So I'm not every racing like, it was boring, but here's a couple of moments. The moments are great, but like, it'd be nice the whole race was exciting, you know? Mercedes, quick review of their performance. Kimi's overtake on Oscar at the very start was so fabulous. It got him on the podium. I don't think anyone was expecting it. Overtaking the championship leader just like that immediately. And Oscar usually doesn't make mistakes. Not that he made a mistake, but he usually doesn't get. He's usually better in those kinds of positions. But today, McLaren didn't really have the pace. Mercedes did for some reason. No one knows why. But all of these things combined can be maximized. I'm not taking away. I don't want to say Oscar made a mistake and that's why Kimi went ahead, because Oscar didn't. But I also want to say like Kimi maximized on Oscar's performance. Oscar didn't perform poorly, and Kimi performed fabulously, and combined, here we are. And Kimi's overtake was fabulous. It got him into third, and that is what got him into podium positions and becoming the third youngest driver with a podium, followed by, of course, Lance and Max, or he follows them. And George, of course, had a seamless drive from start to finish. He did great, no complaints. Although I will say that I have a bet that while everyone in the Mercedes garage was very happy for George, mostly everyone was cheering for Kimi. I'm sorry, but you're 27 years old. Just kidding. Max also had a great drive. He had a small incident towards the end where he overtook George during a safety car, but he was saying that George was braking quite aggressively, and it happened on accident, basically. GP was like, I'm checking for erratic behavior, and it seemed like there was a bit of erratic driving. George was like, he overtook me, but like it seemed, from what I understand, there's been no follow-up from the FIA. A lot of people were penalized for making a mistake during the safety car, so I'm assuming it's fine, but we'll see. Maybe there'll be like a 4 hours later, like, just kidding, everyone's disqualified. There was like 6 people that got noted for it. Williams, okay, so as usual, Alex was crashing out on the radio. He's like, you guys never listen to me, blah, 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 blah. I don't know what he becomes when he gets into an F1 car and has a radio at his disposal, but like, he doesn't bitch this much in real life, I don't think. But like, and I don't know if it's a him or Williams problem, but something's going on where Alex is like possessed by the whiniest bitch on the planet every time he sits in an F1 car, and he's always shouting on the radio. I don't know what realm he enters in that car, but like it's one where he's agitated, angry, and nothing is going his way. It's not that far off. He's not had great races recently, but like it's just really funny. He just becomes like this raging maniac on the radio. Carlos had a terrible quali and was starting like at the bottom of the grid, but he ended up bringing it home he ended up bringing 1 point home, which is great, considering this was a rough track for overtaking. Making up 10 spots besides the DNFs, pretty good. Aston Martin, there was a really funny moment on Fernando's radio where he gets told to do something. He's like, this isn't testing, this is racing, and then just didn't do it. And actually, Davide, that Italian commentator that works for F1 TV that I love, I mentioned him at the Italian Grand Prix. I'm like, why isn't he in other places? He is now. I guess they listened. He's going to be in Austria. He was here. Loved it. But he was basically saying that that's an example of how Ferrari's drivers should be behaving, because he's like, I don't understand why the Ferrari drivers are always complaining on the radio. He's like, all of the strategy should be decided beforehand. And he was like, if Ferrari is changing shit on the fly and they don't like it, don't do it. Like, Fernando didn't want to do something and he didn't. And so he's like, why are you immediately complaining? Which I get. I guess, like, it's not really in Charles's nature to disobey. Carlos did it a few times and he got shit for it. But I see where he's coming from. Like, they do just seem to complain all the time. Like, they complain more than any other team. It's kind of crazy, but also no other team has Ferrari engineers on the other side of the radio. So there's also that. All right, now let's talk about McLaren. So first of all, we need to note that Lando didn't have a good qualifying, and he was starting like 7th. Was it 7th? Yeah, 7th. Oscar did have a good qualifying and was starting 3rd, but Oscar did not have the greatest start, which we've talked about a bit. he didn't have great pace, he didn't have a great start, he didn't do anything bad, but he didn't do anything good. What he did do fabulously was defend. He was defending like a champion. He was definitely not as fast as Lando, but not so much slower where they had to do team orders. And that's where we got to the point where they were letting them race and they were in a position to race. And I don't think anyone could quite believe their luck, because we've been demanding McLaren to let them race each other. There's been a couple of moments where they could have, that McLaren intervened. Not today. Today, McLaren was like, race. And race they did. Lando spent a few laps trying to overtake Oscar. Unsuccessfully, had to back out of every move because Oscar was defending quite well. And despite Lando having more pace, it wasn't quite enough against Oscar's defense. And they were basically both chasing P3. They were both trying to get past Kimi, which they just weren't able to do. Lando, I'm sure, thought that if they let him overtake Oscar, he would be able to catch Kimi. I don't think anyone's going to be able to catch Kimi at this point, because lap 67, Lando makes a move. And what an incredible move it was. Like, he had tried a couple of times, didn't work, and then he goes down the inside, I think catching Oscar completely off guard. He's more than a car's length ahead of Oscar, and everyone's like, wow, he just spurted forward unexpectedly down the inside. That's crazy. What a fucking move from Lando. And Oscar was like, sir, not today. And then he lunges forward and takes the lead back. He's taken the lead back. They've gone through the corner, and I think a second corner. And then Lando's like, no, I still want to get ahead. So he lunges forward when there is like a negative gap. There is no gap there. He lunges to try to get ahead of Oscar and ends up, there's contact, and then he ends up in the wall, and parts are flying everywhere. Oscar could have gotten a puncture. They brought him in immediately during the safety car because Lando's crash caused a safety car. I don't think he had any damage. Luckily, I don't even know how that happened. But Lando basically tried to create a gap where there was just not even remotely even close to a gap. There was no gap. There was nothing there. And he immediately takes the blame. And this is the thing, right? This is the thing about Lando that, like, I appreciate him taking the blame because it was his fault. He made a mistake. He misjudged. Totally fair. And again, this is the adrenaline talking, but I think it goes back to if this subconsciously came out in the heat of the moment, it still speaks to his mindset, because he went, this was entirely my fault. That was stupid. That was a mistake. I'm so unlucky. That was a mistake. I take full responsibility, basically. The fact that he threw in the word unlucky in there annoys me, because this has nothing to do with luck. This has to do with you misjudging a situation and making a mistake. That's not luck. That's just a mistake. But like, every time there's an issue, whether he's at fault or not at fault, there's always someone to blame. He always managed to blame someone. And then Oscar, when he was, full credit to him for taking the blame, right? In the media pen, I don't think he used, I didn't hear him, I only saw a couple of interviews, but I don't think Lando used the word unlucky again. But like, the fact that that's the first word that came out makes me feel like that speaks to a larger issue with his mindset, where he thinks that things going wrong for him are down to luck or other factors and not him, which stalls improvement, stalls progression and development as a person, as a driver. It's like all of these things. And I think that's like really key differentiator between him and Oscar. And Oscar, by the way, cannot be baited. He was asked, he's like, hey, so Lando took full responsibility for the incident. What are your thoughts? And Oscar was like, well, I actually haven't seen the incident, so I don't really know what happened. So like, even then, he's not blaming Lando, which I think is big of him. And I don't know. I know it came out quickly in the heat of the moment, and I don't want to hold that against Lando, but like, I'm going to hold it against Lando just because, like, I think that's what's holding him back, because I think inherently he thinks that things not going his way are due to external factors and not himself, even when he's taking responsibility. Lando girlies come at me. I doubt there's a single Lando girly left listening to this podcast, but come at me, it's fine. But we were all, it was so good up until that crash. Like our dreams had come true, our prayers had been answered. McLaren was finally battling each other, and it was a great battle. And then it just like crashed and burned. Not actually burned. In the cool down room, Max was in full debrief mode. Kimmy was just like looked happy to be there. George was like listening silently, and Kimmy was just like, wow, this is where you guys have been hanging out. Love him. Everyone was so happy for him. Max came up and hugged him like intensely. George hugged him. The whole team everyone was so happy for Kimmy. And he just looks so small, and you just want to protect him. And like, I was so happy to see him succeed like that. He's had a rough few weeks. Why am I crying? I remember last time, Nico was really happy when Kimmy DNF'd due to a car issue, because he was like, if that had been a mistake, that would have fucked with his like mental state for the next race. And he's probably right. I mean, like, why wouldn't that fuck with his mental state? But like, luckily he rallied. He performed calm, cool, collected against people much more senior than him, leading the championship, and he just led a fabulous race, and like everyone looked so proud and happy to see him. And he's like walking around the paddock afterwards, and little kids are running up for him to sign their merch, and they look the same age. They're all just small and cute. Everyone was so happy for him. I don't think people care that much about George, particularly at Mercedes. I'm like, they were happy. Yeah, we got the win. But the heartwarming, wholesome feeling that Kimmy brings out just can't be replicated by anyone. And I was so happy. I was so happy to see him on that podium, and to see him get drenched in champagne, and to see him celebrating with everyone, and for him to be like, wow, I'm in the cool down room. Wow, I'm on the podium. And you could hear the entire crowd cheering for him. They were shouting his name. Ugh, amazing. All right, so the results. Driver of the day was Kimi Antonelli, because duh. He's never driven in Canada before. This was his first time, and he had so many bad results in a row that were sort of out of his control, and he beat the current leader in the Drivers' Championship, and came close to beating the 4-time world champion. And so like just like really good for him. The tick in the box, Lando. There's no gap. Get glasses. Okay. Race results. George Russell, Max Verstappen, Kimi, Oscar, Charles, Lewis, Fernando Alonso, Nico, Esteban, Carlos, Ollie, Yuki, Franco, Gabriel, Pierre, Isaac, and then DNFs include Lance, Lando, Liam, and Alex. The driver standings are as follows. Oscar with 198 points, Lando with 176 points. That is quite a big lead Oscar has gotten on Lando, imagining a gap. I'm being so hard on him. I'm sorry. But it happens. Mistakes happen, and sorry to Lando. Max has 155 points, so he's catching up a bit. George 136, Charles 104, Lewis 79, Kimi 63, Alex 42, Esteban 22, Isaac 21, Nico 20. This is the second time in a row he's made it into the points for Nico, so good job, Nico. Lance with 14, Sainz with 13, Gasly with 11, Tsunoda with 10, Alonso with 8, Bierman with 6, Lawson with 4, Bortoleto, Calapinto, and Doohan with 0. I think it's hard seeing Carlos being so far behind Alex, but he himself, and like everyone says, like your first year in the team and you have a more senior teammate, you're not beating them, really. Like, that's not happening. You're getting used to the car, you're getting used to the team, you're getting used to all of these things. Going from Ferrari to Williams is definitely an adjustment. So, like, it's not surprising he's performing worse, but I'm sure it's rough to go through. The team standings are as follows. McLaren with 374. I mean, congratulations on your Constructors' Championship, McLaren. Mercedes with 199, Ferrari with 183, Red Bull with 162, Williams with 55, Haas with 28, Racing Bulls with 28, Aston with 22, Kick Sauber with 20, and Alpine with 11. A huge progress from last year when I think Kick Sauber had 0 like the whole time. I think they finished with 1 point maybe. I think it was like 1 point. Anyway, that's it for the Canadian Grand Prix. Next up, I believe, is Austria, and I'm very excited to go to Austria. There's schnitzel, there's apple strudel, it's Red Bull's home race. We'll see how Max does. And yeah, I'm just really excited. Usually what's it called? That ring, something ring, the Red Bull. Oh, was it Red Bull Racing Ring? Whatever. The Austrian race is usually pretty fun, so I'm excited for that. And in the meantime, make sure you follow on social at BoxBoxF1 Pod to keep up in between races, and make sure you share, subscribe, comment. The more boxes, the more happy I am. Before I forget, we've got the F1 movie coming out. I will be watching and reviewing, and probably in the same episode. It'll be a separate episode, I think, from the race review. I will also be recapping the new Netflix shows I have yet to watch. So the F1 Academy show and Kimmy's docuseries. Which sad that he didn't get his podium before they made the docuseries. That would have made a great episode. Anyway, until Austria, see you soon. Box.